Hi, folks, and welcome to Walking on the Weene Side. And today it's actually two sides of the Weene because on one side we have writer, composer Robert Gregory Browne, who is out on the west coast of the United States. And on the other side we have Beth Rudetsky, musician and great friend of It Matters Radio and of myself, and also she is the lead producer of a new play called Cradle Song, which Rob wrote. And so with that introduction, let's get talking about Cradle Song. And Rob, why did you write this play?
Well, it's been something I've been wanting to do for years, but I never really had a way into the plot and the characters and that kind of thing. But a couple of years ago, I went through a period of a lot of losses in my life, family and friends, and was thinking a lot about the end of life. I'm getting older too. And the play was actually written as kind of therapy for me to get past the grief and that kind of thing. And so, of course, I chose to write a story about someone dying and how it affects his family. So,
And your protagonist is dying of AIDS.
right.
Are any of the people you lost in your own life, was that horrible disease?
No, not of AIDS. We did it. My wife's best friend did die of a very rare disease, and nobody knew what was happening to her. So I was thinking about that a lot at the time. It was pretty devastating to her, and to my wife as well, to see her go through that.
Sure.
But I'm not actually sure why I chose AIDS. I just felt I think I wanted to show a family that had been torn apart by their differing beliefs, and then brought together again in the face of this illness.
Because this young man is dying of AIDS, but he's been
Right.
alienated from his family
Right.
because he's gay, and they are
Correct.
very fundamentalist Christian in their beliefs, and
Yes.
cannot accept the fact that he is chosen this lifestyle, which of course
Yeah.
is such a
Right.
Yeah. They kicked him out when he was a teenager, and he's basically been just kind of getting by on his own. He's a musician,
Mm.
and it's now many years later, and the mom gets word that he's very sick, and she wants him to come home. She feels very bad about everything that went down, when he was a teenager, and always has. But she's kind of a subservient wife who finds herself during this period of grief that she's going through.
Yeah. In a little bit, our audience are going to get to listen to the title song, Cradle Song, and in it, I listened to it, and of course, the version that we're going to have, it has the lyrics that Louise, the mother, sings.
Right.
So you can really think about the lyrics, folks. And one lyric that really got me was, "Why can't I ask the Lord to forgive?"
Mm.
And, that's such a powerful, powerful question. Not just about homosexuality, AIDS, or whatever, but about in life in general. And I wondered Beth, what was your take on that line? Because it's such a powerful, personal line.
My first feeling was, how do I learn, or the character thinking, how can I learn how to forgive myself? Is that possible?
So the Lord really represents oneself in a way.
That's part of, I guess, the definition in my feelings. Yes, because it's a very powerful line, and that the character of Louise, she's very tied up with her beliefs, and she also there's a whole backstory with her, and within her personality. She has never quite been settled with herself or forgiven herself for her sins, for her, what she perceives as her lack of perhaps being more human or more understanding. And that's, so I look at it as multi-level line, and also I look at the whole play in that way too.
Yeah, I haven't had the privilege yet of reading the entire play, and of course, I haven't had the chance to go to a staged reading, but you have had at least one staged reading, haven't you?
We had a reading, very successful reading, with a wonderful director and actors from Broadway. And as the actors would tell you, there wasn't a dry eye in the house.
Uh-huh.
As they're reading, they're trying to keep it together. So they're in character, but also they're people themselves. So they're kind of like, they're feeling everything that they're reading.
Yeah, and even though they've read it before, when actors do a staged reading like that, even though they've read the parts before, because when they actually are saying those lines and having other actors respond, all of a sudden, of course, the whole theater experience becomes very personal and real for everyone. And so what made you decide at this point, Rod, to go with a play, and particularly with a musical? Why?
Well, I've always loved musicals, and I wanted to kind of, as much as I love the, razzmatazz, jazz hands kinds of musicals, I wanted to write something that was more intimate, something that was more raw, I guess, and would be a more intimate story, a drama that had music. And I'm not even sure why this came out as a play. I don't really know why anything comes out the way it comes out. But for some reason, this spoke to me as a play, and that's why I wrote it that way.
Uh-huh.
Not a very exciting answer, but
right, it's a great answer.
I just okay, but I just it's like when I wrote my first novel, it was originally a movie idea, and a friend of mine said, I think this is a novel. I don't think this is a movie. And I said, yeah, I think maybe you're right, and wrote that novel, and surprisingly, it sold. I don't really plan a lot of things out, so. I'm not a planner. I'm more of an instinctual kind of guy.
Okay. So that tells us about your writing approach too, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I don't plan anything. I don't plan anything. I get ideas and then I sit down and start writing.
Mm-hmm. Well, now, but you have got a background in music. You didn't just suddenly say, "Oh, I'm going to write a musical and pick up a guitar."
No, I've never written any music or played any instrument. No, I'm just kidding. No, I've been playing music since I was I think I was about 9 or so. When my uncle came over to our house for, I don't know, it was for Thanksgiving or something like that, and he brought his ukulele with him, and he showed me a couple of chords on it, and I was, immediately sucked into the whole, okay, I got to learn how to play this thing. And when he left, he handed me the ukulele and said, keep it for a while. And I did, and I haven't stopped learning and playing music since then.
Great.
And I think I wrote my very first song when I was, I don't know, probably 11 or 12 or something like that.
Uh-huh.
Of course, it was a love song about a girl that I was in love with in love with from afar. I don't think I ever said a word to her, but I did write a song about her.
I wonder how many young men and women, usually in middle school kind of grades, have done that.
Oh, I'm sure plenty.
I know I had a couple poems.
Well, you got to get it out somehow, one way or another. You got to get it out.
Oh, yes, and those of us who keep doing it, keep writing, whether it's music or poetry or literature, plays, whatever, I think it becomes part of who we are. That somehow we're the
absolutely.
ones who just hold on to that first experience. Yeah.
Yeah, always, always.
Now, before we let our audience hear the wonderful title song from this play, Cradle Song, I wanted to just ask you, are you going to have dancing in the play?
Well, I don't know if I'm going to have dancing in the play, but that will depend on how it's directed and staged. I would think there would be maybe a little bit of dancing, since most musicals have some dancing going on.
Mm-hmm.
But it's mostly about the songs, and it's an old, as far as the play portion of it goes, it's a very kind of old-fashioned family drama. That happens to have music where they express themselves musically at certain points in the play.
Yeah.
As far as dancing goes, I know there's one character, his name is Sammy Emanuel, who's the hospice nurse. I could see him dancing in a few scenes, so it would be interesting to see it staged.
Mm-hmm. So one of the goals here is to get it staged, of course, and folks, after we listen to the title song, we're going to come back and talk a little bit about how you get a play staged, and I think that's going to be very interesting. But first, let's have a listen to Cradle Song. And by the way, I should mention the words and the music are by our guest today, Robert Gregory Browne.
Philosopher George Santayana once said that family is one of nature's masterpieces. But sometimes families go wrong, and the road to redemption is often a difficult one. My new play, an intimate musical called Cradle Song, takes a very close look at one such family. It's the story of a young musician and his parents driven apart by religious dogma and the dictates of society in 1980s America, only to be brought together again in the face of an epidemic that's ravaging the country. But developing and launching a musical is a long, expensive process, and in these days of high-concept projects on Broadway, it's difficult for producers and playwrights to raise funds to develop more intimate stories and prepare them for the stage. Writing Cradle Song was the realization of a dream, and now that the play is written, there's still a lot of work that has to be done, including staged readings with a full cast of actors. We held a very successful first reading with a terrific director and cast in New York City a few months ago, but that was only the beginning. In order to move forward with more readings and developmental workshops, I've been working with our lead producer, Beth Rudetsky, to raise funds to pay for actors, food, and facilities in hopes of attracting investors for a run on the off-Broadway or even Broadway stage. I always have a tough time talking about my own work, so instead I'll let the words of others do the talking for me as you listen to the demos I created for the play. Then I hope you'll read more below and click the button to donate. Thank you for helping bring Cradle Song to life.
The night goes on and on without you. No endings yet, I can't forget about you. Daddy wants a son who's always living in a state of denial. Mommy wants a child who always says he's feeling perfectly fine. Oh, 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 if she would only listen. You don't listen. You won't listen to a word I say. You look at me. I don't wanna cry myself to sleep again. I don't wanna be afraid to say his name. Why should I be forced to choose between my faith and my son? Every little tear you cry leaves another scar inside. There's no darkness when you go. You will never be alone. Don't you worry, don't you cry. No more gray skies, no more rain. No more sorrow, no more pain. You will dream that you can fly. Remember the time when I held him in mine and I carried him up to his bed. Remember the days when I'd kiss it away, all the pain, all the heartbreak he shared. Where are you? What are you? Who are you now? How could I let that time go? Remember the boy with a soul full of joy, who would sleep in the fold of my arm. Remember the smile and the laugh of a child who had nothing but love in his heart. Where are you? What are you? Who are you now? Why should I let that boy go? I don't wanna cry myself to sleep again. I don't wanna be afraid to say his name. Why should I be forced to choose between my faith and my son? How can I be strong enough to let him go? Why can't I resist and tell his father no? Why can't I just hold him close and ask the Lord to forgive? Remember the day that I taught him to pray, and I told him the wages of sin. Remember the night that he broke down and cried, and he said he was not like his friends. Where are you? What are you? Who are you now? How could you break our hearts so? I don't wanna cry myself to sleep again. I don't wanna be afraid to say his name. Why should I be forced to choose between my faith and my son? How can I be strong enough to let him go? Why can't I resist and tell his father no? Why can't I just hold him close and ask the Lord to forgive? Remember the time when I held him in mine and I carried him up to his bed. Where are you? What are you? Who are you now? How can I let that time go? Where are you? What are you? Who are you now? How can I let that time go?
Welcome back, folks. I hope you enjoyed listening to Cradle Song. And our guest today, as I've mentioned before, Robert Gregory Browne, the writer of, lyricist of, composer of Cradle Song, and Beth Rudetsky, who is the lead producer. What is a lead producer?
The lead producer is, well, it's been described as the person who tries to get the project off the ground, get everyone involved, excited about it, make the contacts, actually make it happen, so that it's not just, if let's say a play is just, if it's just read in a sense and it's never performed, it becomes sort of almost like a museum piece. You want it to come alive, so that involves my involvement, or the lead producer's involvement, in getting everybody on board and finding people who would be interested in investing money. You have to get the director, the actors, a place to have it performed, and sort of like, I guess, like mommy in a way. But
Okay.
So
tell me,
I
at
think
night,
that's probably true.
at night,
let's
do you sing a song about this child? Have you composed your own song about the child you play?
me?
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, I missed that. Do I sing?
Have you said you would feel like the mother, and I was saying, do you sing a song about the play as the?
Oh, I see. Okay. Oh, but when you think about it, so Rob he sees a triple threat, and he not realize how unusual that is. It's pretty rare to be the author of the book, of the play, and write the music and write the lyrics. And plus, he's also written the arrangements for his songs. And in the song demo, since Rob is also a singer, he sings all the songs. It's pretty rare. Usually, with a musical, there is the author of the book, and then there might be two more people. One writes the music, one writes the lyrics, or just the second person writes the music and the lyrics. It's pretty unusual.
Yes, it is.
And yeah, and especially for it to be so good, and to find that in one person.
I
Thank
think Rob, you have a fan. I think your leading producer is a fan.
I think so. Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's what a leading producer has to be. Otherwise,
You have to give them, yeah. When you think about it, isn't it enough, that, so Rob has written the book, the music, and the lyrics. How many places can you be really at one time? That's a lot to do.
Yeah.
So you really do, and that, which could bring us to another part of the topic, which is, Rob, when you're writing a novel, or mostly for any author who's writing a novel, it's pretty solitary, right?
right.
And now, when you're writing a musical, not that when you're working on writing the musical, it's not solitary, but at some point, it involves other people. So that's different, right?
Absolutely. It's also with a novel, you can put the novel aside and sit down and read it and have the same basic experience that the reader's going to have.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, within limitations. With a play, you really have to see it, or at least hear it on its feet. You have to hear the actors saying the lines in order for you to actually see if you've gotten the rhythms of the speech down properly,
absolutely.
if it's all holding together. So it's a different experience.
Yeah,
it really helps.
I had a playwright friend of mine the other day asked me if I could help her figure out how to have a staged reading of a piece. Because, for that very reason, you see that interaction. I think that's what makes theater so powerful. It's very powerful. It's different. It is different from watching a movie even. Recently, I went to see Fences, which is a fairly good movie based on August Wilson's play,
right?
Which I've seen live. And I was very aware that while I thought, wow, what fabulous shots these are, what great actors these are, it isn't the same thing as being in a theater where you see real actors interacting with one another, and you see, how you can feel the emotion, and good actors bring that. And it must be so exciting for you when you get to this point where you're having a stage, and of course opening night, my God.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I don't even want to think that far ahead, but yeah, I'd probably be a bundle of nerves if that happened. There's something about the immediacy of live performances. I mean, I think it's less of an illusion than movies are, because you're seeing live people in front of you having these conversations, these conflicts.
Yeah.
And, that's not, I mean, movies are more of a manipulation of images to create a feeling, whereas a play is about the words that are being spoken and how they're being spoken by the actors, and being spoken directly in front of you at that time, with no cuts, no anything. They don't have a chance to go back and reshoot a scene or whatever. They have to do it live.
Right.
And I think that immediacy is just very compelling.
And you get to see them interacting, and you also, in a very real sense, you're interacting with them. I was very aware of that. As I told Beth earlier when we chatted, I was on my way out the door to see a play today, something called Permanent Collection by a guy named Thomas Gibbons. It's a wonderful play, and great performance. And boy, all of a sudden, I realized how totally we as an audience were involved, and we were part of what was going on there. And at the end, people just sat there. They just oh. And actually, my wife and I stood up and started applauding to get the, because they were just like, everybody was like, oh my God, what just happened to me? And that's what, of course, you're looking for, is for people
That's
to-
exactly what you're looking for.
So
yes.
when they come out of that from Cradle Song and they finally, what just happened to me? What is it you want them to have happened?
Well, I just want them to have an experience. I want them to understand these people and hopefully relate to them. And I think almost everyone can. I think it's a pretty universal in terms of its story. I mean, not everybody has someone coming home to die, of course, but most people understand that feeling. But I honestly, I would like there not to be a dry eye in the house, if that happens. But, it's hard to say. I think everyone will take from it what they do. Some people may hate it. Some people, it might touch them in a way that they don't.
Might make some people very angry.
Yeah,
Because
it may well do that. It's hard
you're
to say.
asking them to think about what faith means and what God means to them and what God means to these people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's pretty heavy stuff.
Yeah, I don't analyze it too deeply, especially when I'm writing things. But I can see those questions definitely being raised afterwards, and I'm hoping that people won't go home and just forget about it. I want them to go home and say, maybe have a dialogue about what they just witnessed, which would be great. But I also want them to have a good time. So.
How many characters are there in the play? I mean, obviously the son, mother, father, and hospice neighbor.
You put me on the spot here. Let's see.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Maybe Beth knows. I don't know. There's maybe there's like four main characters and a few other characters that come in. Plus, there's the chorus and some things going on with the audience, with people in the audience, actors in the audience that would get up and do some singing and stuff.
Yeah, okay. We don't want to give any of that away because,
Well, I'm not too worried about it at this point.
Speaking of giving things away, Beth, I went to, let's see, I want to make sure, Indiegogo is the funding source you're using. It's like a crowdfunding thing. And you have a page up there. And we're going to show a piece about that. But I was wondering, this is a pretty unique way of helping to fund, to raise funds, to ask people to contribute that way. And you are doing some giveaways. I noticed things like T-shirts and tickets, and then the higher end, and copies of the script and things. Have you ever done anything like this before, either of you, or crowdfunding?
I have not.
I certainly haven't. No. Really, the reason we decided to do it is because just launching a play at all is extremely expensive.
Yeah.
And our goal, we've set our goals high. We would love to get off Broadway or Broadway, even if we can. I don't know if that's possible, but why not set a high goal? Mm-hmm. And but in order to get people, backers, investors, that kind of thing, to know what they're investing in, we have to do more readings and eventually stage readings, and that costs money. We don't expect the actors to do it for free. We don't expect the director to do it for free. We don't expect caterers to give us free food, So we decided, since neither one of us are millionaires, we decided that maybe it would be best to try to go out to the community and do a crowdfunding situation. And so far, the response has been, very nice, and hopefully it'll continue.
Mm-hmm. And folks, this is a little plug from me. If you'd like to help this really good theatrical project, and I know you've already had a chance to listen to that song, so you know there's talent here, folks. If
Thank
you'd
you.
like to be involved with that in just a small way, go to Indiegogo. Now, I don't know what you look for on Indiegogo. Do you look for Cradle Song?
Yeah, you could probably type in Cradle Song or go to the theater category and look for Cradle Song.
Mm-hmm.
There's also a shortcut, which is kind of a complicated shortcut to me, but it's igg.me/at/Cradle Song Musical, all one word. So it's igg.me at Cradle Song Musical.
Okay.
And that'll get you directly to the page.
Yeah, great. And folks, visit. You get a chance to learn a little bit more about some of the ins and outs and bolts and screws and things, and donate. And we're going to be back right after this.
You walk in the shadows of my heart, a shiver of cold, a night so dark I couldn't erase your fear. So you left me here alone. I wander the hall from room to room, the billowing wind, the fading moon. I couldn't replace your fear, so you left me here alone. The night goes on and on without you. No endings yet, I can't forget about you. You walk in the corners of my mind, a sliver of pain, a distant chime. I couldn't embrace your fear, so you left me here alone. Goes on and on without you. No endings yet, I can't forget about you. You walk in the shadows of my heart, a shiver of cold, a night so dark I couldn't erase your fear, so you left me here alone.
So, welcome back, folks. We're walking on the Weene side, and today we're talking about musical theater, and specifically a great new play that's trying to make its way through the system and onto the boards, and it's called Cradle Song, and we have the lead producer, Beth Rudetsky, and the writer of the book and the play and the lyrics and the music and the arranger of the music, all those people, and one computer screen, and his name is Robert Gregory Browne. And by the way, folks, I should mention, if you're looking for Robert Gregory Browne, Browne, and the reason I say that is because he's also got some books out, and if you want to go to Amazon and look for him, you should. Because, we do like to support artists of all kinds, which brings up a subject, and we kind of were leading into. It's very expensive to come out with artistic products. I guess some things are cheaper, like if you're doing a found art project in your backyard, you just go down the street and pick up things, and it doesn't cost so much. But to put a play on, obviously, is a little bit more expensive. And we talked about how you're trying to raise some funding up front through Indiegogo crowdfunding. But that brings up the subject of funding for the arts. And what do you folks feel about what's happening with funding for the arts in this country, and how should we go about funding the arts?
I'm waiting for Beth to jump in on that.
I just think we really can't have a world without the arts, because otherwise I feel we would all just live inside our own heads. The arts reflect back to us what's happening, and everyone can say who's creative and who is an artist also can create their view, what they want to put across, and there has to be that opportunity to do that. Otherwise, if you don't have arts, you just have a textbook. You really. I think if you want to function in this world, you don't just want to exist. You want to be a thriver. Let's say, to use that word. You want to thrive, not just exist. So the arts, I think, help you to thrive and to make things, to make life come more alive. To help you look at yourself, first of all, as an individual, to learn more about yourself, and also to look at the world around you so that you can know more about other people.
Well, but should that be funded, or should people have to do this on their own? Does funding the arts in some way destroy it? Or is the process better off if people like Rob and yourself starve?
I don't think you have to be a starving artist. No, I think there should be funding, and there are actually grants. There are actually people out there who want to give you, monetary awards for creating something that will make an impact upon other people, that will move them. They want to put their money there.
I was actually had the honor of being funded by the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences when I was a young screenwriter, when I first got into screenwriting. And I was part of a competition of a few thousand people who sent in screenplays, and I happened to be one of 10 winners, and I got a fellowship. And if it hadn't been for that fellowship, I probably would not have gone very far in my writing career, because I had a family and couldn't afford to do otherwise. Mm-hmm. Without that, nice fat check that they sent me coming in, and also the continued support that they gave me over the years. When I think of funding for the arts, though, I think mostly of arts in schools, because I don't think this country values art education as much as they did when I was a kid. And, I don't know if I'm being one of those old men saying, oh, it's not the same as it was when I was a kid, but I really don't think it is. I think they value too much the reading, writing, arithmetic part and forget about the creative part. And I really believe that kids learning and being allowed to be creative and funding the schools so that they have the time to do that I think that's very important for their well-being,
Mm-hmm.
as far as I'm concerned. I think kids are probably better behaved and just more rounded human beings when they have the arts in their life. And if they aren't exposed to it at school, where are they going to be exposed to it? I mean, I suppose there's TV and movies, but there's a lot more to art than just those two things.
Yeah. I have a very
and
good friend who has children, and his second youngest, she's I think 5 now, and this last year she discovered herself in a way. He took her to an art museum. Now, don't ask me why he took this little kid to an art museum. Well, actually, no, ask me, because the answer is I told him to. He said she loves the color. She loves, looking at things. I said, take her to an art museum. And he did. And this little girl, who tends to be a little hyper, suddenly discovered that she could stand still and just look at things.
Yes.
And she found a Georgia O'Keeffe.
Mm-hmm.
And just was mesmerized. And he sent me a picture of the picture. And being somebody who does not have much artistic sensibility himself, he's a businessman, a very good businessman and a very caring person, but just not artistically aware. And he sent me a picture and he said, why, Ken? Why would my daughter be staring at this? And I said, because she's always been curious of what that was down below her belly button.
Mm.
And anybody who is familiar with Georgia O'Keeffe's paintings immediately knows what I'm referring to. And, art really connects us to ourselves in some wonderful ways, and in some very challenging ways. And I get the feeling that Cradle Song is going to make people look at themselves.
Well, that's certainly the hope. I don't know if it's necessarily the intention. I think the intention was to just tell a story that people could relate to, but I would hope that they would, yes, look at themselves. And maybe some of them would even be reevaluating their own lives based on what they've seen on the stage. Hard to say. I never want to preach to anybody, and I certainly hope that the play isn't preaching in any way.
Well, but, isn't that what good preaching is, though? Is when we get people to think for themselves.
Right.
I mean, preaching. Right. There's a difference between preaching for people, which gets them to think, and preaching at people, which puts them to sleep.
Exactly.
And that, to me, is part of why theater is so important, because it preaches for people. It wakes us up, and it makes us ask questions like, why can't I ask the Lord to forgive? This wonderful line from the title song of this new show, Cradle Song. So one more time, folks, just in case you haven't heard me saying it loudly enough and clearly enough, go to Indie, INDIE, GoGo, GOGO, theater section, and look for Cradle Song and donate. Even if all you can give is a few bucks, it would be lovely if you gave. Hey, wouldn't it be nice if you could give 1,000, 2,000? I'm sure Rob and Beth would really be very appreciative of that.
Oh,
but you know what?
Definitely.
They're also going to appreciate that $5 donation, because that's a small step on a long path.
Yes, absolutely.
And
anything you can donate would be great.
And the other thing, and I think I want to suggest this to you, look, we don't all live in New York and LA and San Francisco and Chicago and places like that with great theater. I happen to live in Phoenix, and we have some great theater, not a lot, but some really great theater here too. But I know not everybody who's listening, and in fact, many of you are perhaps not even listening in the United States. Not that that doesn't mean you don't have great theater. I've seen some great theater in London and in Paris and in Rome. But please, take a moment to think about, hey, instead of watching television next weekend or going to yet another football game or whatever, maybe, just maybe, you should think about going to a play. It might change your life. So my last question to you is, what was the first play you remember going to? How old were you, if you can recall?
Beth, I'll let you go first while I'm thinking about this.
I don't remember exactly how old I was, but I was pretty young. I saw Hair.
Oh, wonderful play. Yeah. The dawning of the age of Aquarius.
Oh,
You would never know I was with
so
my
exciting.
guy.
I just.
I think the first. Okay.
Go ahead.
I think the first one that I saw was Taming of the Shrew when I was in high school, and it was put on by the local college, and I was mesmerized, not just by the language, which was fantastic, but by the wonderful acting. They just did a wonderful job of it. And as far as musicals go, I can't remember the first musical I saw. It certainly wasn't Hair. I think, I don't remember. There's been quite a few over the years, but I think the one that impacted me the most, which was in relatively recent years, was Rent.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Which I absolutely loved. But after I saw that, I said, I have to write a musical. I really, it was the one play that just really got to me.
Yeah. It's interesting. I'm glad you mentioned that because, of course, Rent is based on another play, another musical, but something that people are like, oh, what are we talking about? Opera now. Yeah, La Boheme. And those of you who have walked on the Weene side with me over the years know that, among other things, I do occasionally love a good opera, and just as I love a good musical, and as I love a good straight talk play. The one thing that I'm going to say about it is that they make an impact, right? They change us.
Oh, yeah.
Real art changes us.
Certainly changed me.
And I think, by the way, the play that I saw in my life that most changed me, I remember I was in college, and my parents, I was down in New Jersey, and my parents came from Boston, and I said, they asked me to meet them in New York, and I said, okay, if I can take you to a play. And I just wanted to go to a play, not something frilly and musical, the kind of things they like, but something that I kind of like. And I took them to see Pirandello's Tonight We Improvise. And I hadn't seen it, I hadn't read it. And I went to this play with them, and I was totally unprepared for it changing my life, but it changed my life. It changed the way I think about the world. And so, folks,
it's great.
Think theater. And with that, from Walking on the Weene side, I'm Ken Weene, and I want to say good night to you all.